Yerp, this perp back with another video, and happy Perptober. And with Terrifier 3 on the horizon, I wanted to kind of make a video similar to what I did with the X trilogy, explaining, like, in my opinion, what makes those movies great. I wanted to talk about what makes the Terrifier movies great. Now, I completely understand that these movies aren't going to be for everybody, which is fine, because these movies are very graphic, very gory, very over the top with the kills. But that's another reason why I love these movies, because if you have watched a good amount of 80s horror, you would know that this is what art is paying homage to. Because at the time, when we had stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like Hills Have Eyes or Halloween or something like that, that was groundbreaking for that time, similar to how the Terrifier movies are doing the same thing, just to a wider audience, because horror has grown in popularity ever since the 80s, 90s, and whatnot. But the slasher genre hasn't been really innovative since the first Scream. You know what I'm saying? We haven't gotten one of those iconic slashers in a very long time. And now here comes Art with Terrifier. Now, Art has been around since like '09, like '08 or something like that. He's been popping up in a lot of different other movies before he gets his own. So even before we get to the first Terrifier, he's already gaining a cult following amongst horror fans. I found out about Art through Terrifier. I didn't watch All Hallows Eve and The Nine Circles. I think that's what it's called. So getting exposed to Art in Terrifier was really a breath of fresh air for me. Not only for it being a slasher, just a horror movie in general. Which brings me to the first Terrifier movie, which seems to be the most divisive or the most hated out of the bunch so far. I haven't seen Terrifier 3 yet, so I can't speak on that. I will have a review on that. I can speak on Terrifier 2. People like Terrifier 2, but I want to kind of just give you my, POV with Terrifier, because what made Terrifier so dope, it's not even like the over-the-top gore or even the hacksaw scene, because the biggest complaint I see with the first one is it has no story. You don't really care about the characters, but it's just like, duh, it's a slasher. What's the first thing you're kind of looking for when watching a slasher? You want to see the kills. You want to root for the killer, or you want to just see him do dope shit. And that's another aspect of why I like the first one. But why I love the first Terrifier so much, not only does it go back to how horror movies were these low budget films, paying homage to that. When Art pulls out the gun, that's when I knew, oh man, this is something special. I've never seen a slasher pull out a gun before. It was in that moment that I was like, man, there's something special about this character, Art. I instantly fell in love with these movies, and I really like Art just because he's that silent antagonist. He doesn't speak, but he emotes so well that you can kind of understand what he's saying without it being said, whether it's just through his humor or just trying to terrify people, just trying to entertain his victims. It was brilliant. Then we get to Terrifier 2 years later, a movie that was crowdfunded for the most part, which is incredible. The movie had a budget of $250K, went on to make $15 million. That is incredible. Does not get talked about enough in Hollywood. That's unprecedented numbers, bro, especially for a movie that is completely independent, which it kills me when people call Art an industry plant, because it's like, you need to be in the industry to be an industry plant. It doesn't make sense. I would understand if like, oh, this is like Blumhouse or something like that. Like maybe you'd have a case, but no, like Art has definitely proved himself not only in one movie but two movies. But I also want to give flowers to Laura Lavera that plays Sienna. Sienna is definitely one of the dopest final girls in a very long time, and she will definitely be talked about for years to come. In just one movie, I put her up there with Lori and Sydney and just Nancy. Incredible final girl. Incredible final girl. I hope that people give her flowers over time. And what I also like about Terrifier 2, since I've watched it the most out of the two movies that are available now, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack just slaps. I could just put that shit on a playlist or whatever and just listen to the whole thing all the way through. And it's just the style of that movie. You can definitely tell that the budget is way up, and it finally gives you an actual story that people have been kind of complaining about, setting up dope lore for not only Sienna's character but Art. You know, we're gonna get somewhat of an explanation of just what he is. Hopefully they don't like just tell everything bit by bit, but just enough to be like, okay, this is why he exists. And these movies are so much fun. So much fun. And it just goes back to just old school filmmaking where you have Damien Leone. He does a lot of the makeup and, you know, does a lot of the effects, the visual effects. And you could just tell he's very passionate about these Terrifier movies. He doesn't want to make the same mistakes as past slashers have, even though those movies are always going to be iconic. And what makes those characters iconic and resonate with people, I feel like Art is starting to crack through those ceilings as you see him popping up in Call of Duty of all things. I always thought that he'd pop up in Mortal Kombat before anything else. So I hope this video kind of explains what makes these Terrifier movies great. You know, it's going to be subjective. Some people still might not understand it. Maybe it'll take some time for some people. But man, I can't wait for Terrifier 3. I'm excited to see where this franchise goes with the Terrifier 4 and a possible 5. And what else is Art going to do mainstream wise? Because we got Popcorn Buckets, Call of Duty, potentially, you know, a Mortal Kombat down the line or something like that. I would like to see a Terrifier series, maybe. I don't know. Don't try to milk it too much, because I know Damien has a definitive end for these movies, and I'm excited. This has just been my brief thoughts and just what makes the Terrifier movies great. Let me know in the comments below, what do you like about the Terrifier movies as a whole? Till next time, I'm out. Peace.